Listen closely, because what I'm about to share with you will completely change how you see XRP forever. They've been hiding this from retail investors like us, and I'm about to blow the lid off the entire conspiracy. I've been digging deep into the ISO 2022 standard for months now, and what I discovered will shock you to your core. The financial elites don't want you to understand the true connection between XRP and ISO 2022, because once you do, you'll realize we're sitting on the biggest wealth transfer opportunity in human history. But before I reveal this bombshell information, let me ask you something that's been keeping me awake at night. Why is there so much confusion about whether XRP actually complies with ISO 2022? Why do the Bitcoin maximalists keep spreading lies that XRP has nothing to do with this new financial messaging standard? I'll tell you why. Because they're terrified. They know what's coming, and they're desperately trying to keep you in the dark while they position themselves for what's about to unfold. Here's what they don't want you to understand about ISO 2022. Right now, as I speak to you, the entire global banking system is operating like a broken telephone game. Banks around the world are literally using different languages to communicate with each other, and it's costing them billions of dollars every single year. Think about this for a second. When you send money internationally, why does it take days? Why do you pay outrageous fees? It's because your bank has to play translator with dozens of other banks, each speaking their own financial dialect. They literally have people sitting in offices, manually checking transactions because the systems can't understand each other automatically. This is insane. In 2025, we're still operating a financial system that's basically held together with duct tape and prayer. But here's where it gets interesting. And here's where XRP enters the picture in a way that will make your jaw drop. ISO 2022 is like forcing every bank on earth to suddenly speak the same language. Imagine if overnight every person in every country started speaking perfect English. Communication would become instant, seamless, and incredibly efficient. That's exactly what ISO 2022 is doing to the banking world. But here's the kicker that nobody's talking about. This isn't just about messaging. This is about control. This is about power. And this is about the biggest transfer of wealth from the old guard to us, the early adopters who see what's really happening. Let me paint you a picture that will make this crystal clear, because once you understand this analogy, you'll never look at XRP the same way again. Imagine you own a tire manufacturing company called Pirelli. You make the best racing tires in the world. Now the government announces that all cars must use a new type of bolt system to attach wheels to vehicles. Let's call this new standard Universal Bolt 2022. As Pirelli, you immediately adapt your tire manufacturing to work perfectly with Universal Bolt 2022. You spend millions of dollars, years of research, and countless hours making sure your tires are completely compatible with this new standard. But here's the crucial part that everyone misses. Your tires aren't just the metal rim. They're also the rubber that actually touches the road. The bolts might be standardized, but the rubber is what actually moves the car forward. Now, here's my question for you. After spending all that money and effort to make your tires compatible with Universal Bolt 2022, are you going to fill your tires with your own high-quality Pirelli rubber? Or are you going to buy rubber from your biggest competitor, Goodyear? The answer is so obvious, it's almost insulting to ask. Of course you're going to use your own rubber. You'd be insane to hand over the most critical component to a competitor after building your entire business strategy around this new standard. This is where the story gets absolutely incredible. And this is where I discovered information that made my blood boil because of how the mainstream financial media has been lying to us. I found a document from Six Group, and let me tell you who these people are. They're not some random crypto blog or YouTube channel. SIX Group operates the stock exchange infrastructure for Switzerland and Spain. These are the people who literally run stock markets for entire countries. In their official 2024 report, on page 15, they list the cryptocurrencies that comply with ISO 2022. And guess what's right there in black and white? XRP. Not maybe XRP. Not XRP might be compatible. They flat out state that XRP is one of the digital assets based on the ISO 2022 standard. But it gets even better. They write, and I quote directly from their document, "Digital assets that comply with ISO 2022 have a higher probability to be integrated into centralized payment systems." Did you catch that? Higher probability to be integrated into centralized payment systems. The central banks are literally telling us which assets they're planning to use, and XRP is at the top of the list. Here's where this story takes a turn that will give you goosebumps. In September 2024, SWIFT made an announcement that flew completely under the radar of mainstream media. They announced that through new APIs, they can now integrate distributed ledger technologies with just a click of a button. Think about what this means. SWIFT processes over 42 million messages per day for more than 11,000 financial institutions in over 200 countries. They just announced they can integrate blockchain technology instantly. Which blockchain technology do you think they're going to choose? The one that was literally built from day one to work with banks? The one that's been compliance focused since 2012? The one that already has partnerships with hundreds of financial institutions worldwide? Or are they going to choose some random meme coin that was created as a joke? Are they going to bet their trillion-dollar infrastructure on Bitcoin, which can barely process 7 transactions per second and uses more electricity than entire countries? The answer is so obvious that the only reason people don't see it is because they've been brainwashed by Bitcoin maximalists who are desperately trying to protect their own investments. Let me tell you something that will completely change your perspective on this entire situation. The banks didn't just randomly stumble upon Ripple and XRP. This was planned. This was orchestrated. This was designed from the very beginning to be the bridge currency for the new financial system. Ripple isn't just a company that happened to get lucky. They're founding members of the ISO 2022 Standards Committee. They helped write the rules that the entire global banking system is now adopting. They didn't just comply with ISO 2022, they helped create it. Do you understand the implications of this? Ripple literally helped design the new plumbing of the global financial system, and then they built the perfect digital asset to flow through that plumbing like water through pipes. This is like Henry Ford helping to design the road system and then building cars specifically optimized to drive on those roads. By the time everyone else figured out what was happening, Ford had already cornered the market. But here's where this story gets really wild. And here's where I'm going to share something with you that most people aren't ready to hear. What we're witnessing isn't just a transition to new payment rails. We're witnessing the end of capitalism as we know it, and the beginning of a post-capitalist, post-artificial intelligence era. The labor market, as we understand it, is about to shrink dramatically. But here's the fascinating part. Global GDP is going to explode upward because of automation, robotics, and AI. We're about to enter an age where machines do most of the work, but the world produces more wealth than ever before in human history. And guess what's going to be needed to facilitate this massive increase in value transfer? That's right, a digital asset that can move value instantly, cheaply, and efficiently between artificial intelligence systems, robots, banks, governments, and individuals. XRP isn't just positioned to benefit from the current financial system transition. It's positioned to be the backbone of an entirely new economic model that most people can't even imagine yet. Remember my tire factory analogy? Well, Pirelli didn't just talk about using their own rubber. They actually went out and bought rubber manufacturing facilities. In 2024, they acquired Aviatec, a Brazilian rubber manufacturer, for $21 million specifically to secure their rubber supply chain in Latin America. Ripple has been doing the exact same thing, but instead of buying rubber factories, they've been acquiring compliance companies, payment processors, and blockchain infrastructure businesses. They've spent hundreds of millions of dollars building the most comprehensive financial technology stack in the world. They didn't do this by accident. They didn't build all of this infrastructure just to hand the most valuable component, the actual transaction medium, over to a competitor. That would be like spending $1 billion to build the world's most advanced car factory and then using engines made by your biggest rival. Now let me address the technical arguments that Bitcoin maximalists love to throw around. They love to say, well, technically, XRP doesn't comply with ISO 2022. Only Ripple software complies. This is the most pathetic, desperate argument I've ever heard, and it shows just how scared they are of the truth. Using my tire analogy, this is like saying, well, technically, only the bolts comply with Universal Bolt 2022, not the rubber. Of course, the bolts are what comply with the standard. But what do you think is going to be attached to those bolts? When Pirelli ships a tire to a car manufacturer, do you think they ship just the metal rim and tell the customer, oh, by the way, you need to find rubber somewhere else? Of course not. The tire comes complete with Pirelli rubber because that's what makes the whole system work. Ripple software is compliant with ISO 2022, and XRP is the digital asset that flows through that software. You can't separate them any more than you can separate a tire from its rubber and expect it to function. Here's another piece of the puzzle that will blow your mind. Central banks around the world are developing CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. They need these CBDCs to be interoperable with each other and with existing financial infrastructure. Guess what standard they're all adopting for this interoperability? ISO 2022. And guess which digital asset has been specifically designed to bridge different currencies and payment systems? XRP, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England. They're all working on CBDCs that will need to communicate with each other seamlessly. They're going to need a neutral bridge currency that isn't controlled by any single government or central bank. XRP is the only major digital asset that fits this criteria perfectly. It's decentralized enough that no single government controls it, but regulated enough that central banks trust it. It's fast enough to handle real-time gross settlement, but cheap enough to use for small transactions. Let's go back to that September 2024 SWIFT announcement, because I don't think people truly understand how massive this is. SWIFT isn't just any company. They're the backbone of international banking. Every international wire transfer, every correspondent banking relationship, every cross-border payment goes through SWIFT. When SWIFT says they can integrate distributed ledger technology with the click of a button, they're basically saying they can flip a switch and revolutionize global finance overnight. The question isn't if this will happen. The question is which distributed ledger technology they're going to choose. And here's what makes this even more incredible. Ripple has been working with SWIFT for years. They've been testing interoperability. They've been building bridges. They've been preparing for exactly this moment. While Bitcoin maximalists have been arguing about block sizes and Lightning Network, Ripple has been quietly building relationships with every major financial institution in the world. While Ethereum developers have been worrying about gas fees and network congestion, Ripple has been solving real-world banking problems. Let's talk about something that makes this opportunity even more explosive: regulatory clarity. For years, XRP was held back by an SEC lawsuit that was nothing more than a political hit job designed to protect Bitcoin and Ethereum's first-mover advantage. But now that the lawsuit is over and XRP has regulatory clarity in the United States, institutional money is flooding in like water through a broken dam. We're seeing pension funds, hedge funds, and sovereign wealth funds buying XRP for the first time. Meanwhile, Bitcoin and Ethereum are facing increasing regulatory scrutiny. Bitcoin mining is being banned in more countries due to environmental concerns. Ethereum's proof-of-stake mechanism is being classified as a security in some jurisdictions. XRP, on the other hand, has been definitively ruled as not a security. It's environmentally friendly. It's bank compliant. It's everything that institutional investors have been waiting for. Here's something else that people don't understand about XRP. It gets more valuable as more institutions use it. This isn't like Bitcoin, where the value is mostly based on speculation and scarcity. XRP's value is directly tied to its utility. Every time a new bank adopts RippleNet, the demand for XRP increases. Every time a new corridor opens up, the utility increases. Every time a new use case is implemented, the network effect gets stronger. And here's the kicker. We're still in the early stages of this adoption curve. Most banks haven't even started their ISO 2022 transition yet. Most CBDCs haven't been launched yet. Most AI systems haven't been integrated with financial infrastructure yet. We're like internet investors in 1995, watching the early stages of something that's going to completely transform the world. Except this time, we know exactly which technology is going to win, because the winners have already been chosen by the institutions that matter. Let me share with you some data that will make your head spin. While retail investors have been distracted by meme coins and Bitcoin price movements, institutions have been quietly accumulating XRP at levels we've never seen before. Grayscale launched an XRP trust. Bitwise filed for an XRP ETF. 21 shares applied for an XRP ETP in Europe. These aren't small companies making speculative bets. These are massive financial institutions with billions of dollars under management. They're not buying XRP because they think it might go up. They're buying XRP because they have inside information about what's coming. They know about the bank partnerships that haven't been announced yet. They know about the CBDC integrations that are being tested behind closed doors. They know about the AI applications that are being developed in secret. Here's something that keeps me up at night with excitement. XRP has a fixed supply of 100 billion tokens. Unlike Bitcoin, which won't reach its maximum supply until 2140, all XRP tokens have already been created. Ripple holds about 48 billion XRP in escrow, releasing a maximum of 1 billion per month. But here's what people don't realize. Ripple doesn't actually sell all of those tokens. Most months, they sell only a small fraction and put the rest back into escrow. Meanwhile, demand is increasing exponentially. Banks are buying XRP for liquidity management. Market makers are buying XRP for cross-border payments. Institutional investors are buying XRP for portfolio diversification. Retail investors are buying XRP for speculation. We're approaching a point where demand is going to far exceed the available supply. And when that happens, the price is going to explode in ways that will make the 2017 bull run look like a gentle warm-up. Here's something that nobody talks about, but that absolutely terrifies Bitcoin maximalists: quantum computing. As quantum computers become more powerful, they're going to be able to break the cryptographic security that protects Bitcoin and Ethereum. XRP, on the other hand, was designed with quantum resistance in mind. The XRP ledger uses cryptographic algorithms that are much more resistant to quantum attacks. As quantum computing advances, XRP is going to become increasingly valuable, while Bitcoin becomes increasingly vulnerable. This isn't speculation. This is mathematical certainty. Quantum computers will eventually be powerful enough to break Bitcoin's security, and when that day comes, institutional investors are going to flee to more secure alternatives. Let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly important to institutional investors: environmental impact. XRP uses 0.0079 kilowatts per transaction. Bitcoin uses 741 kilowatts per transaction. That's not a typo. Bitcoin uses nearly 100,000 times more energy than XRP for each transaction. As ESG, environmental, social, and governance, investing becomes more important. Institutions are going to be forced to choose environmentally friendly alternatives. Pension funds can't justify investing in an asset that uses as much electricity as a small country. XRP gives institutions everything they want: speed, cost-effectiveness, regulatory clarity, and environmental sustainability. It's the complete package, and it's why smart money has been accumulating while retail investors chase shiny objects. Here's my final prediction, and this is the one that's going to sound the most crazy until it becomes obviously true. Artificial intelligence systems are going to need their own money. As AI becomes more autonomous, these systems are going to need to make payments to each other, purchase resources, and settle transactions. Bitcoin is far too slow and expensive for AI systems that might need to make thousands of microtransactions per second. Ethereum is too unpredictable with its variable gas fees. XRP, however, is perfect for AI-to-AI transactions. It's fast, cheap, predictable, and programmable. We're going to see AI systems using XRP to pay for computing resources, data access, and service agreements. The volume of transactions between AI systems is going to dwarf human-to-human transactions, and XRP is positioned to capture the vast majority of this market. So let me ask you again, why is there so much confusion about XRP and ISO 2022? It's not confusion, it's desperation. The old financial guard knows their time is up. The Bitcoin maximalists know their narrative is collapsing. The traditional banking cartel knows they're about to be disrupted. They're all desperately trying to confuse retail investors like us because they know that once we understand the truth, we're going to position ourselves for the biggest wealth transfer in human history. XRP isn't just compliant with ISO 2022. It's the digital asset that ISO 2022 was designed to accommodate. Ripple didn't just adapt to the new financial standards, they helped create those standards. XRP isn't just going to benefit from the transition to digital payments, it's going to be the foundation of that transition. The tire factory has been built, the bolts have been standardized, the infrastructure has been deployed, and the rubber, XRP, is ready to hit the road. The only question left is, are you going to be holding XRP when the engine starts? Or are you going to be watching from the sidelines as the biggest opportunity of our lifetime drives away? The choice is yours, but the window is closing fast. The institutions know what's coming. The banks know what's coming. The regulators know what's coming. Now you know too. The revolution has already begun. The only question is whether you're going to be part of it or just a spectator watching history unfold. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to be on the right side of the biggest financial transformation in human history. What are you going to do with it?